My girlfriend wants to have an open relationship, so I broke up with her. Now she want to get back. But the truth behind that, I discovered, is far more insidious. After 4 years of dating, I honestly thought I had everything figured out about the person I loved. Chloe and we'd been together since we were just 19, barely out of high school, stumbling into college. Now we were both about to hit 24, and everything was just cruising along, like some sappy romantic movie. We'd made so many plans, even fantasized about names for our future kids. It sounds cheesy, right? But that's how it really was. We were that couple everyone was jealous of and looked up to, the ones with a fairy tale love in real life. But man, I was wrong. Completely, utterly, unbelievably wrong. My girlfriend of 4 years told me she wanted an open relationship. But that wasn't even the worst part, not by a long shot. That was just the beginning of the biggest goddamn nightmare of my life. A few weeks back, our life started getting weird. It was like a dark cloud hung over us, hinting at a huge storm coming. Every hug and every handhold from Chloe somehow became rarer. And when they did happen, I could clearly feel they were more rushed and distinctly colder. Then came those quick and forced kisses that she'd give me. I could sense her own disgust hidden in them. It was like she was terrified I'd find something repulsive on her lips. She started gluing her eyes to her phone more, texting and whispering to someone with an unusually intimate tone I'd never heard. I still remember it clearly. One time I was lying next to her and Chloe's phone lit up with a text from a strange unknown number. Before I could even see what it was about, she snatched the phone away, glaring at me, annoyed, like I just committed a grave sin or something. What kind of work is that private? I naively and stupidly thought at the time. Was I beyond hope then? Then our weekend dates, the ones we used to treasure like gold, just kept getting canceled. Sometimes it was because she was meeting old friends, or she needed personal space due to work stress, or her therapy session ran longer. I felt like I was living with a stranger in my own home, a ghost of the Chloe I once knew, not her. I tried to ask her what was wrong, if there was anything that I could help with, but she just brushed me off, saying I was worrying too much or she was just tired. Speaking of therapy, that was a pivotal point. Around that time, Chloe started seeing a therapist, a guy named Dr. Alex Reed, because she said she was stressed with work. I was all up for it. I thought it'd be a good thing for her, and if she was happy, it's good for our relationship too. But there was something a little off about it. Chloe was super protective about these sessions. She never went into detail about what happened like it were some national secret, but sometimes she'd say Dr. Reed was a genius, someone who really understood her. But the way she kept everything about those sessions under wraps, that mystery, it made me a bit uneasy. Looking back now, that was the very first sign of the hell I was about to walk into. One night, out of nowhere, Chloe suddenly told me she had something to say. Then she dropped a bombshell on me, a nuclear even. She confessed to me that she'd had a one-night stand with some other guy. His name was Mark. She claimed it was due to work stress, feeling lonely, and it was just a moment of weakness that led to it. Chloe was sobbing uncontrollably, tears and snot everywhere, begging me to forgive her. She said it was just a mistake, a weak moment, that she regretted it terribly, and that she'd been tormenting herself for every single day. My heart shattered into a million pieces. It felt like someone had just punched me square in the gut. I was in so much pain, I couldn't even breathe. But right then and there, seeing her in tears, hearing her genuine expression of remorse, something in that chaotic mess made me soften. A faint glimmer of hope flickered through the stormy night. A hope that, okay, at least she was being honest. At least we could face this together and get through it. I was ready to forgive her for that mistake, thinking it was just a lapse in judgment in a moment of weakness. Our 4 years of relationship was stronger than that. Then she started talking about Dr. Alex Reed, that genius therapist she'd been mentioning lately. Chloe said she'd confessed the one-night stand to him, and he'd advised her to talk to me honestly. He even suggested a healthy solution for our relationship. Chloe looked at me, her eyes still red, but with a strange determination. She said Dr. Reed was our only hope, that he would help us heal and get back to how we were. I reluctantly agreed to attend the therapy session. At the time I thought, okay, this specialist advised Chloe to bravely face her mistake. Maybe he can help me see things more objectively and help Chloe and me get through this hardship together somehow. Little did I know, this guy's specialty was wearing a devil's disguise. The real story was just beginning. The moment I stepped foot into Dr. Reed's office, I felt something was off. He sat there, overly confident, with sharp eyes that seemed to pry into every corner of my soul, and that perpetual know-it-all smile on his face. The way he looked at me, it was like I was some stupid, outdated idiot who didn't understand anything about the human psyche. I instantly hated his attitude. Still, I figured maybe he's just arrogant because he's so good. Anyway, I was there to deal with the fact that Chloe had cheated on me, to see how he could possibly mend my shattered trust. But no, Reed absolutely refused to touch on that topic. From the moment he started talking, he went on and on about the complex nature of modern love, about unnecessary traditional constraints. He talked about exploring one's deepest desires, and my stomach just churned. It felt like I was joining some kind of cult, and he was trying to brainwash us. Then the guy even turned to Chloe with a sickeningly sweet tone, like he was freeing her or something. He told her Chloe's guilt was due to outdated societal norms, and that she needed to liberate herself to be her true self. What the hell was that? I was still thinking he'd offer some solution to save our relationship. Why was this old man spewing such nonsense? I couldn't stand another second of this fake multi-level marketing seminar. I was about to stand up and drag Chloe out of there. But then that goddamn moment arrived. Reed turned back to Chloe, his eyes gleaming with something I couldn't quite place. He asked, "Chloe, are you ready to live your truth? Do you think an open relationship could help you find the freedom and self-acceptance you're looking for? This will help you move past the guilt from your initial mistake." What the hell? An open relationship? After hearing that, I swear it felt like a bucket of ice water had been dumped straight over my head. I looked at Chloe. Her eyes were full of guilt, bewildered, but then she hesitantly nodded. In that very second, I knew I had been lied to yet again. And I also realized a brutal truth. Chloe had been manipulated by this quack into believing this was the only way for her to avoid facing the guilt she'd caused. What a bastard. I felt a chill run down my spine, just from the sheer nastiness and repulsion laid bare in front of me. I looked at Chloe, and it was crystal clear. She was being manipulated. Exactly. She accepted this insane open relationship idea as an excuse, a perfect shield to justify her initial mistake, that damn one-night stand. She believed Reed's words to feel normal, to avoid facing the truth that she had betrayed me and caused me immense pain. Cowardice and evasion had consumed her completely. I couldn't take it anymore. I shot up from my seat, blood rushing to my head, but my voice remained ice cold, surprisingly resolute. "Mr. Reed," I said, looking straight into his smug face, "you're destroying our relationship. You're not a therapist. You're a disgusting manipulator." Then I turned to Chloe, my eyes meeting her red, guilt-filled ones. "Chloe," I said, each word like a nail being hammered into the air, "if you want a relationship like that, it's never going to be with me. We're over. I can't build a future on lies and sick shams like this. Open your eyes and wake up. This isn't love, and I don't deserve to put up with this bullshit. Do you hear me?" I turned my back and walked away without a hint of hesitation. Behind me, I heard Chloe begging, calling my name through her tears, but I ignored her. And I could still feel the cold, challenging stare from that bastard Reed. He looked at me as if I were a little lamb that had just escaped his trap. Honestly, his web was even more repulsive than the nonsense he'd spewed that day. But I didn't know then, and that wasn't the end of it. The true nightmare was just beginning. Right after that damn therapy session, the storm, named Chloe, officially hit. My phone vibrated non-stop, texts flooding in, calls ringing relentlessly. She was crying, begging, sobbing, her voice thin and reedy through her sobs, pleading with me to forgive her. She kept repeating like a broken record, "That was Reed's idea, Jack. I didn't want that. I was shocked when he said it. I only agreed because he's an expert. I didn't know any better." Sounds pathetic, right? But no, I knew better. When crying didn't work, she started trying to spin the blame on me instead. She said I was too conservative, that I didn't understand modern psychology, that I had pushed her to that point because I hadn't cared for her enough, that I had been too controlling. She called me a destructive asshole, said I had ruined a beautiful relationship and a bright future just because of my outdated rigidity. Where did she even learn this classic gaslighting tactic? The Chloe I once knew and loved passionately was nothing like this. Every text, every call from her felt like torture. It wasn't just her crying, it was the tone of someone trying to twist the truth, pushing all the responsibility onto me. I felt disgusted, and that feeling of being manipulated was even worse than being cheated on. It was absolutely fucked up. And it wasn't just me alone. She dragged everyone else into it too. Our friends started contacting me and telling me stuff like I was the crazy one, especially Chloe's close friends. They'd call and text things like I was being too extreme, that I should give her another chance. They kept thinking I'd destroyed something beautiful, but they had no idea what kind of hell I was living in, did they? It didn't stop there. After hearing Chloe's story, my parents were openly confused and disappointed. My mom and dad loved Chloe. They already saw her as their own daughter. My mom kept asking if it really couldn't be fixed. I felt like a massive rock was crushing my shoulders. My family also thought I was making a terrible mistake. None of them knew what Chloe had actually done, or how that bastard therapist had brainwashed her. They fully believed everything Chloe told them. All they saw was a Jack abandoning a 4-year relationship, and they thought I was the bad guy. That feeling of being isolated and misunderstood made me absolutely furious. Chloe still stubbornly tried to contact me, and every time I heard her pleading, sobbing voice, it didn't make me soften up at all. It actually made me want to throw up. That wasn't the Chloe I used to love. She was make a puppet on strings now, and the puppeteer was that manipulative bastard therapist. The doubt and the sheer nastiness from Chloe and Reed gnawed at my mind every single night. I even isolated myself from everyone. I just wanted to be alone, drowning in the chaotic mess of my thoughts. Deep down, something kept telling me this wasn't simple. Something felt fundamentally wrong. I had to get to the bottom of it. I reached out to Sarah, Chloe's best friend. Sarah was always straightforward, honest, and notably, she hadn't been among the friends who'd contacted me earlier when Chloe tried to guilt-trip me. When I met her, Sarah seemed uncomfortable, like she was caught in a tough spot. I told her everything. Chloe's one-night stand with Mark, that bizarre therapy session with Dr. Reed, and how manipulated I felt. Sarah sat there, listening to me, her face steadily paling. She kept hesitating, looking at me with worried, guilty eyes, but then finally she took a deep breath, as if shedding an enormous burden. Her voice was tiny, almost a whisper, but every word hit me like a lightning bolt. "Jack," she said, "you need to know the truth. Everything is even more horrible than that. Chloe, when she was drunk the other night, she told me something. She didn't just have a one-night stand with Mark. She's been in an open relationship with both Mark and Reed for months." Hearing that, I felt the blood stop in my veins. What the hell? The therapist too? I couldn't believe my ears. Everything before this was already hell, but this information, it dragged me down to the absolute deepest circle of hell. You guys, I swear, the scene where Sarah handed me her phone to show me those texts was worse than any B-grade horror movie. Sarah had saved everything, every single message, because even she felt something was terribly off with Chloe and that scumbag therapist. First, there were the texts between Chloe and Mark. Just as I suspected, that one-night stand wasn't the only accident. After her confession to Reed, there were many other secret meetups. Chloe kept lying to me, saying she was working extra shifts or meeting friends, but in reality, she was with Mark. I felt disgusted, but that wasn't even the half of it. Then Sarah scrolled to the texts between Chloe and Dr. Reed. Can you even imagine? This therapist wasn't just manipulating Chloe into believing in this so-called open relationship. He was actively participating in that sick arrangement. There was one message I read over and over, every word stabbing me in the eyes. "Chloe, if you truly believe in an open relationship, maintaining it with multiple partners, including me, is perfectly normal and healthy for self-acceptance. It's part of your healing and self-discovery process." What the fuck? A therapist sleeping with his patient and then justifying it with that garbage theory? He even advised Chloe not to tell me about her other relationships, saying it was to avoid unnecessary hurt or until both Chloe and I were truly ready. Ready for what? Ready for his bullshit? What a goddamn fraud. Sarah looked at me, her voice trembling as she explained, "Chloe was too scared to face you, Jack. She felt guilty about Mark, and Reed gave her the perfect excuse not to feel bad, making her think she was doing the right thing for herself. She'd sunk too deep into her mistakes already. At that moment, I wasn't even angry anymore. All I felt was emptiness. Everything had completely collapsed. It wasn't just one betrayal, it was a complex web of deceit, a play where I was the only clown. I was not only betrayed by my girlfriend, but also manipulated by a scumbag who called himself a professional. I just wanted to scream at the top of my lungs, but not a single sound came out. Not only Sarah, but I also met someone else. We met up at some dingy bar. The moment he saw me, Mark looked genuinely remorseful. Yes, I did met Mark, not to start a fight or anything, but to hear the rest of this goddamn messed up story. He confirmed he'd been with Chloe, just like Sarah said. But you know what? Mark was also a victim in Chloe's twisted play. He told me Chloe had lied to him, saying she was about to break up with me. That's why he made his move. When I told him about Dr. Reed and Chloe's sick relationship with him, Mark was just as shocked as I was. He kept buying me drinks throughout the rest of the conversation, like it was his way of apologizing. After talking to both of them, once everything had completely blown up, I knew there was no room left for weakness or false hope. The first thing I did was block Chloe on every single platform. She didn't deserve another second in my life. Then I started packing up her stuff. Every small item, every single memory felt like a knife twisting in my heart. An idea flashed in my head. I had to get my revenge on her, to unleash all this burning rage inside me somehow. I couldn't take it anymore. But then I took a deep breath. I looked at my own grim face in the mirror. I realized that petty revenge wouldn't bring me peace. I needed to end this mess like an adult, no matter how much my blood was boiling. I didn't want to become a scumbag like them. But being an adult didn't mean I'd let that bastard Reed off the hook. He wasn't just a fraud, he was a danger to society, a predator who exploited people's trust. I immediately got to work, gathering all the evidence Sarah had shown me, those disgusting texts between Chloe and him and with Mark. I also talked to Mark, and he was ready to testify too. After that, I started digging into the professional licensing board for therapists. I wrote a detailed report attaching all the evidence I had. I even went digging for info on Dr. Reed online. And you know what? I wasn't surprised at all to find some negative leads. There were a few small articles, or rather forum posts, from former patients saying he gave questionable advice or that they felt manipulated. Though there weren't any clear outcomes yet, all of it just solidified my belief. This guy was a devil in a doctor's disguise. I swore I wouldn't let him harm anyone else. Once I'd gathered enough evidence and finished that damn report, I knew it was time to tell the truth. I couldn't carry this burden alone anymore. I sat down to talk to my parents. As I started telling them, my mom gripped her hands tightly, her face slowly paling. My dad stayed silent, but his jaw kept twitching. I told them everything, bit by bit. When I finished, the room was silent. Then my mom burst into tears. She looked at me, her eyes filled with sorrow. "Son, I'm sorry for doubting you. I can't believe Chloe would do that. She was manipulated and used, but her actions are unacceptable." My dad slammed his fist on the table, his face filled with absolute rage. "That bastard! Jack, you did the right thing. No one deserves to be treated like that." In that moment, I felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders. Finally, I was vindicated in front of my family. But you know what? Even with how firm I was, Chloe still wouldn't let go. She kept contacting me. No more blame games this time. Instead, it was all desperate pleas, saying she was having a severe mental breakdown, that she wanted to kill herself, that she was completely falling apart. A tiny part of me, the part that had loved her for 4 years, that stupid part, still wanted to believe she was just a victim of manipulation. I looked back at her old photos, the beautiful memories, the loving words she used to whisper to me. I wondered, could I forgive her? Could I help her get through this? Did she deserve another chance? Could I be her savior, rescue her from herself? I talked to Liam, my best friend, about this. After listening, Liam looked at me point blank. "Jack, you can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. You're not responsible for her choices." Liam's words hit me like a splash of cold water, but they were the truth. I realized that love, no matter how strong, couldn't heal this level of deceit and manipulation. I couldn't keep sacrificing myself to save someone who had chosen that path. I understood that forgiveness doesn't mean allowing someone to keep hurting you. I needed to protect myself, even if it meant letting go of something I once cherished to my very core. It was a painful decision, but I knew it was the right one. I couldn't go back, never. I simply cut off all contact with Chloe and notified her family that she needed special care and attention. Otherwise, something bad might happen. But after all that, I still struggle. The feeling of being betrayed, of being manipulated, it had eaten into my very bones. I still found it hard with trust, not just with women, but with myself too. I did try dating again. Like, my friends kept pushing me, saying, "You gotta move on, Jack." I tried, went out with a few people. But every time I tried to meet someone new, the ghosts from the past would reappear. I found myself overly cautious, constantly staring at their phones, then wondering, are they hiding something too? Are they manipulating me? I was terrified of going through that damn pain again. It felt like I was walking on a tightrope, always about to fall. So I decided I had to dedicate time to myself, focus on work, and on my personal hobbies. I started hitting the gym, throwing myself into personal projects. I even traveled alone, wandering through places I'd only ever dreamed of. Slowly, I learned how to rebuild trust, starting with close friends like Liam, the ones who were there for me when I was at my absolute lowest. Then my parents, who genuinely listened and supported me. I realized that not everyone is like Chloe. Not everyone will lie to me. Trust, it's like a tree. You have to cultivate it from scratch, from the smallest seeds. It's painful, it takes time, but I knew I had to do it to keep living. After everything that happened, my story might not have a happy ending. It's not one of those prince and princess lived happily ever after tales. But man, it was a hell of a lesson. So expensive, I swear I'll never forget it. A lesson about trust, about how easily someone can be manipulated, and most importantly, about the importance of trusting your gut. I lost a long-term relationship, a love I once thought was everything. But in return, I found the truth. And more importantly, I found my self-respect again. Listen up, everyone. Be careful who you put your trust in, especially those who appear powerful or expert, like that bastard therapist. Never settle for less than you deserve. Never! And most crucially, never let anyone, whether it's a partner or some quack therapist, convince you that you need to change your core self to fit their toxic modern standards. Because sometimes loving yourself enough to walk away is the bravest act of all. If you've ever been in a similar situation, though hopefully not manipulated by a therapist to that extreme, please share your story in the comments below. Also, if you were in Jack's shoes, what would you have done? Would you have forgiven Chloe? If you found this story helpful or impactful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Red Flag Radar channel. Thank you all so much for listening to my story until the very end. You guys are my motivation to keep going.